so much for joining us. We're going to talk all about seaplanes with Captain John Kelly, president of Shoreline Aviation Seaplane Services.
That's great.
I wax poetic about this because I remember a story where a seaplane landed at Fenwick to come see Katharine Hepburn, and so when I think of seaplanes, that's what I think of. Okay. Fast forward many moons later, you've been doing this for 38 years.
That's right. Yeah.
How did you start out being a pilot?
Well, actually, I started to learn how to fly. I was in business in New York, and to get in and out of New York is always difficult, so I got a pilot's license so I could...
How old were you when you got it?
Actually, around 30. I'd been in other businesses and doing other things, and then I really fell in love with it, and I just felt it kind of took over my other career.
Which was what?
I was a concert musician in New York City.
Really?
Yeah.
What did you play?
I was a trombone player.
Do you still play?
No, not at all. That's why you can only do one thing at a time well, you know, so you have to make your choices.
So were you in an orchestra in New York City?
I was a classical musician in New York City, yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Okay, so you're playing the trombone.
Right.
You get a pilot's license because you just wanted one?
No, because, well, I wanted one, sure. That was part of it. But part of it was also just that in order to get out of the city and do your college concerts at night and your nightclub concerts, wherever you were going to go around the area or around the country, and get back into the city so you were there for the next morning, recording sessions, rehearsals, etc. You couldn't do that by public transportation. So surprisingly, a lot of the freelance and orchestral musicians in New York City have pilot's licenses.
I did not know that. I'm learning something. All right, so I'm assuming that you landed the planes on the ground,
sure.
Not in the water
at
initially.
Teterboro, right.
Yeah.
Teterboro Airport.
When did it go to a seaplane? When did that pop into your head?
Well, I grew up on a lake that had a lot of seaplanes operating on it. This is back in Massachusetts, back in the 60s, and I got rides and things like that. Washed airplanes to get rides, and over the period of time, I kept that in the back of my mind. So when I did get a pilot's license, I went and got a seaplane rating, more just for fun than anything else. But I've always believed if you're doing something that you really like to do, you should find a way to make money at it. So I started flying seaplanes professionally.
And that was 38 years ago.
That was 38 years ago, 40 years ago, really. And started our own business 38 years ago, which were both land planes and seaplanes. And we ran both types of airplanes up until really about 2000, and then we decided just to concentrate on the seaplanes. So for the last 18 years, it's really been only seaplanes.
Where do you go? And is it just charter?
No, we do really three different parts of the business. We manage airplanes for companies and individuals to fly their personnel around, but they don't want to have a flight department with pilots and mechanics and all of that. That's one thing that we do. We also do some scheduled services out of New York City in the summertime to places like the Hamptons or the Vineyard or Provincetown or places like that. And then we do charter all over the Northeast and also down into Florida and the Caribbean, the Bahamas, all places like that.
So you stay mostly on the East Coast?
Pretty much on the Northeast. In the
Caribbean.
And then Florida, the Bahamas, and the Caribbean, right.
How much fun are you having with this?
I'm having a lot of fun.
Because you're still behind the instruments, right?
Yeah, no, I still, I mean, if I were doing anything else, I would have retired probably 5 years ago, but this is more fun than anything I could do in retirement. So.
Now, you'll land on almost any waterway, right? The Connecticut River, a lake. Where can't you land on the water?
There are certain lakes and reservoirs that are restricted. Certain bodies of water, different states have different restrictions. You really have to look at local and state restrictions as well as the federal restrictions. But basically, any navigable water that allows power boats is open to seaplanes.
What's the most difficult thing about taking off and landing? Is it the wind? Is that the problem sometimes?
The wind obviously has an effect on everything, but the difference about flying a seaplane is that if you're flying a land plane, you're flying into an airport, you oftentimes have a control tower, you have you'll have windsocks, you have a runway, with numbers, and the whole airport has been engineered for your safety. In other words, the obstacles aren't close by, and towers are marked, and all that kind of stuff. When you're flying a seaplane and you're going into a lake or a river or a harbor, you don't have any of that pre-planning done for you. You have to fly in, take a look at it as you fly overhead, and you have to be your own airport engineer. You have to be your own windsock determinator. You have to be your own control tower.
Safety engineer.
Right, and then you not only that, all of our airplanes have marine radios, so we can communicate with the boats that are in the area to let them know that we're coming in, because most boaters aren't looking up in the sky to have something come flying down in front of them unexpectedly. So we're making radio calls to boaters, and particularly like in New York City, where we have tugboats and ferry boats and
you're coming down on the East River? Is that where you're coming down?
We land on the East River. Yeah, that's correct.
So there's a lot of traffic there.
There's a lot going on. Yeah, between the water traffic and then the right next to the seaplane base is a heliport, so we have a lot of helicopter traffic, seaplane traffic, and then boat traffic. So it's quite a circus going in and out of there.
Which you enjoy, I can tell.
Well, it's a challenge. I mean, the thing of it is that, you know, if you're flying, not to disparage airline pilots because they do great things, but if you're flying an airliner, you're getting in the airplane and you're flying a predetermined course, and you're landing at this place you probably landed at before. That's pretty much the same every time you get there. The East River is never the same every time you get there.
Yeah,
it changes.
There's wind shear and all kinds of stuff there. How many planes do you have, and how many folks can you put on board?
We have 10 airplanes. They're all Cessna Caravan amphibians, and the maximum that we have is 9 passengers and up to 2 pilots.
And as far as luggage, it's all about weight, correct?
It's all about weight, correct. And so on short hauls, like if we're going back and forth to the Hamptons, we can pretty much load up the airplane with people and bags. But if I have to go to, like yesterday I did a trip to North Carolina, and then you have to really watch your weight and your number of passengers, number of bags, offset it against the fuel. There's a few calculations to be made. But,
how many companies are there like yours around the country? Are there just tons of them, or fewer and fewer?
No, there's probably no more than a handful.
Really?
There's a big company in Kenmore Air Harbor out in Seattle. There's a couple of companies down in Louisiana, a company in Miami or Fort Lauderdale area. There's a couple of people up in Maine that are doing what we're doing, but it's very, very limited. There's some private owners that have these kind of airplanes that use them for fishing trips and for business support and things like that. But there's probably no more than a dozen companies nationally that do this kind of work.
So you're sought after.
We're sought after, and we're all competing for the same. Our biggest problem now is we're all competing for the same labor pool of qualified pilots and mechanics.
How many pilots do you have on staff?
We have 15 pilots on staff.
All right, that's a lot.
It is a lot.
And they're based in different places?
They're pretty much based here in the Northeast during the summertime, and then in the winter they move out to the Bahamas, Florida, Virgin Islands.
So you fly year-round, weather depending?
We do fly year-round, right. And even here in New York we fly year-round. We don't, obviously we're nowhere near as busy in January as we are in July, but we do have airplanes available if the weather works for it. We still do trips in and out of New York City. So
we're going to talk over a video that you sent in about amphibious airplanes and how you make them. So let's go to the video, and this is sped up, of course. So what's happening here?
Well, this actually is an airplane that operates for us down in the Bahamas, and what's happening here is that it's just been in for a major maintenance event, and they're moving it off of wheels back onto floats to set it back out to become an amphibious airplane again.
And here you are flying. And this happens to be in Florida?
This is in Florida. This is down in Gasparilla Island. And this is just a little video that someone shot and sent to us very nicely of us going into a very narrow little seaplane base called the Boca Grande Seaplane Base. And you can see the airplane moves, and we're fairly slow, but we're maneuvering around not only the other boat traffic, but keeping an eye on what's going on as far as you can see the wings aren't too far from the trees.
Right.
And as we come around this corner, there's a little bit of a shallow. You can see the brown of the sand there. So these are all things you have to take into. And
this is parking.
And then this is parking. And this basically we just shut off the airplane and drift into the dock.
That's how you normally do it. Now sometimes when you land, you've got some waves
rocking. Yeah,
so that again, you're having to calculate so you don't run into the pier.
And most of the time when you're landing, you want to avoid the waves. You want to find an area that's fairly flat where you don't have a lot of big boat wakes or waves. and there's limitations. So you're not going to land this in the open ocean on a windy day.
Sure. Stories over the years that you can share. Either somebody on board was great fun, or your heroics at the instruments. Share with me some. Stories.
Pilots love to tell all of their oh my God, their stories. But the fact of the matter is that most of it is pretty routine, and it's. There are some exciting moments from time to time. There are some fun things to do. I mean, we've actually been sent to Maine to pick up lobsters to bring back for a party in East Hampton. We've delivered eight pallets full of strawberries to a private island in the Bahamas. I mean, strange little things like that. Done wedding parties where you have to bring in 45 people in the course of 4 or 5 hours, and you're juggling airplanes and people in order to do that. But one of our favorite things is in the Bahamas. We do a bunch of tours of the Exumas, the Exuma Islands, where we go out for 4 to 5 hours and drop people on secluded beaches and go visit indigenous iguanas.
Where the pigs swim.
And we go to where the pigs swim down at Big Major Key, and go to lunch at a yacht club and all this. I mean, all that stuff is fun, and that's really what we focus on. I mean, obviously you have to deal with the other parts of it, the elements and things like that. Flying this morning and all the rain and wind wasn't all that much fun. Yeah. But people want to get from New York to the city, which is from East Hampton back to New York on Monday morning, and that's one of our major focuses.
So you must be flying a lot of executives back and forth.
We do a lot of executives, a lot of basically we're dealing with high-end individuals, both on the charter and on the commuter stuff.
I'm just guessing there's a book in 38 years of doing this. Just
everybody says that.
Yeah, just the little things about flying in lobster or strawberries. Or
when I get tired of flying, maybe I'll write the book.
We'll you definitely should. So. Now I have to ask you about the duck. This is your mascot.
Well, yeah, everybody calls that. His name is Roger Over and Out. But
Roger Over and Out. I love this.
We do a lot of trade shows, and frankly, we do a lot of marine trade shows. We do like the Newport Boat Show in Annapolis and so, because at the boat shows, most of our clients are boaters, and a lot of times we're dealing with yachts and private yachts and charter yachts and all that kind of stuff. So at any trade show, you need to have giveaways, and the giveaways, for the most part, have to appeal to not the people who are taking the giveaways, but to their kids.
And their grandkids.
They're looking for their kids and their grandkids. So we find that Roger here is...
Roger Over and Out. Who came up with this?
I have no idea. Someone in the marketing department, Andrea or Tim or one of those.
This is very good. Yeah. So you started out as a classically trained trombone player, and now you fly seaplanes. When you thought about your life early on, did you ever think it was going to go in this direction? You had any idea?
No, I was going to be a marine biologist, so all of this is a big surprise to me. I have no idea how
it happened. It kind of hooks together a little. I mean, you're on the sea a lot.
That's right, right. And we actually do. We've done a bunch of stuff for the Nature Conservancy down in the Bahamas and the Caribbean, and doing a bunch of work for them, working in the environmental issues, but. Anyway, it's all fun, and being here in New Haven, I mean, one of the great things that we offer is as we've discussed, most of our business is out of New York City, going out to the Hamptons or whatever. Those airplanes are all based in New Haven, and they go in on Thursdays and Fridays in the morning, or around noontime. They all go in empty to New Haven, and go off and do what they do all day long. And then on Sunday night or Monday mornings, they all come back from the city empty again. So we have a special deal that we offer to people here in New Haven, that for $99 you can come down and hook up with one of our deadhead legs going into the city. Huh. And for $99 we'll take you to New York City for a 30-minute seaplane ride here from downtown or from Tweed New Haven Airport to the city in 30 minutes.
I think that beats Uber.
It beats Uber, and it certainly beats Metro North. And then you can either take the train home later at night because the airplanes are busy doing other things at the end of the day, or you can stay for the weekend and come back with us on Sunday night or Monday morning.
What fun.
The round trip's $189. The one way's $99, and
so not too bad.
It's a great experience. It's a lot of fun.
How low do you fly to the water?
Well, we're generally.
I mean, if we take a small plane and how high they fly, and we take your plane, is it the same?
Well, we're generally flying between 1,500 and 2,500 feet going into the city, but because on Long Island noise is a big issue. Seaplane and helicopter noise is a big deal. We tend to fly higher to try to eliminate some of the noise issues. So over there we may be at 3,500 or 5,500 feet or higher altitudes.
What a spectacular view, right?
Oh, great view. Great view in New York City.
Why have you been so successful over 38 years?
Well, I think one of the things is really is concentrating on basically customer service and providing a product that, you know, we believe there's a couple of other people that do what we do. We believe we do it better.
Well, you have the ducks.
We have the ducks, of course, and along with that, we you know, have a more intensive training program for our pilots, more intensive maintenance program. Just trying to make it as perfect a product as possible. We're not so involved in growth, and obviously we like to be profitable. That's a good thing, but it's not about, you know, having 20 airplanes next year or 5 years from now. It's about doing what we do really well, and providing a great service for the arguably the limited amount of people that can afford our product.
Sure.
You know, and they're people that demand that level of service.
And you give it to them.
And we give it to them.
Don Kelly, thanks so much for being on.
You're
President
welcome.
of Shoreline Aviation Seaplanes.
It was a pleasure. Thank you.
Likewise.
Right.
Spend all night kissing, and if was right here, then who else is missing? Got a little sidetracked if I'm so wishing. Found the keys to the door, but it's also a metaphor. Need to keep locked in the grocery store of my mind. Just to save time, skip right ahead to the nice ride.